Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know that you guys have adjusted your schedules to be with us at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we are so blessed that we had to make some augmentations to our schedule tonight. The last 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time schedule. The guest that we have tonight is truly, we've been talking in our pre-show for quite a few moments. And what we've been talking about is truly the impact that life has had on her and the impact of that life that's going to be on you. Impacting Life 24/7 is a unique organism, ladies and gentlemen, because what we have discovered is that it's so much less about us and so much more about others. I am blessed tonight to have in our studios, our virtual studios, her name is Sandrian Nelson-Moon. And let me just tell you something about her. Her impact lies in presenting the possibility of transformational restoration. How many of y'all have ever been through something dramatic, something traumatic that shakes you from the center to circumference? Well, her hope is to provide a road to peace, to provide a structured introduction to healing. And she provides strategies to victims and individuals struggling with sexual, mental, and physical trauma. Her hope is that through her openness into her own journey through these terrible and traumatic times, that this gives you hope and anyone listening tonight hope in feeling that their situation is undeliverable or unrecoverable. She believes that the impact from her experience will bring value to all of our listeners. I want you guys to put your hands together and welcome to our virtual studios the lady who is going to deliver a heavy burden tonight, Miss Sandrian Nelson-Moon. Welcome, Sandrian.
Hey, how are you? How is everybody?
Hey, welcome, Sandrian. We're so glad to have you on Impacting Life 24/7.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, well, thank you so much. And Sandra, one question I did not ask you, and don't worry about I'm going to ask it anyway. Thank you, Greg, for getting her contacts listed. Where are you at in the world?
I am in Suffolk County, New York, Center Reach area.
Oh, okay, so she's up there in New York, and
Yes.
we're so blessed. We had to reschedule the show because my son came in town. As you guys know, he is in the Army. Chris plays for the Army band, and we had to rearrange our schedules. And Sandra was so gracious and so kind. She's a very busy lady. She's got a whole lot on her plate. And I said, please just come back. Please don't make it so long. And we got to reschedule. We got to reschedule very quickly. And so Sandrian Nelson-Moon is our guest tonight on Impacting Life 24/7. And if you look in the comments there, you'll be able to see all of her information. Of course, we're going to give it out. But let me ask you first, for our podcast audience, those folks that listen on purpose, Sandrian, how can people contact you?
You guys can find me at Coach Sandrian Speaks 1 Instagram. My Facebook is Sandrian Campbell. In parentheses, you see Mr. Nelson-Moon. Facebook won't allow me to change my name.
Right.
But you can find me in those two places. I'm there daily if people just want to talk or, have a conversation or just reach out to me.
Well, again, thank you so much, Sandrian. And I would ask that anybody who passes by in our live audience, that you would share this. Okay. I don't beat you guys over the head much asking you to do certain things. But this, I know, because I've been in the pre-show for the last 30 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. I know how much of an impact this has had on me. We don't even do our show for an hour anymore. But this show is so important. We're doing it for a full hour, a totally different time than we normally do it. And I'm asking you to share and get people in the room with us because this is going to really, really, really change your life. So Sandrian Nelson-Moon,
Yeah.
I know you. I know you're a woman of God, a woman of faith, but our audience doesn't know you, Sandrian. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, okay. So my name is Sandrian Nelson-Moon, born and raised from the Caribbean, out of Kingston, Jamaica. I'm gonna say in my 30s. Women doesn't tell their age. In my 30s, feeling like my 20s. Let me say that. Okay. I'm a mom. I'm a best-selling author, actually. I'm a life coach, certified, and trauma advocate. I've been for years. I also advocate for children, and I'm just here to try to shake up some hearts tonight. I'm trying to pour into some people. So.
Well, and you know, ladies and gentlemen, that's one thing about Impacting Life 24/7 with your host, CL King, and the rest of our team here that are helping making stuff happen in the background. You can go to restoredbook.info and get a copy of our Sandrian's book. I'm going to be giving that website out quite a bit tonight. Of course, those of you that's seen the links in the chat, go ahead and connect with her right now. Go to her Facebook page, go to her Instagram, go to her LinkedIn, because you're going to want to connect. See, this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Impacting Life 24/7 is a cathedral of resources. All these people behind me, we rotate their books out so that we can continue to connect you with people who are making an impact. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to want to be connected with Sandrian Nelson-Moon. Just go to restoredbook.info. Now, Sandrian,
yes,
what you've been through, my friend.
Yes.
What you've been through as a person, as a child, as a young person, and even as an adult. We were talking about this, me and you, and we were saying, you know, sometimes when we tell our story, people have a tendency, because people, you know, Sandra, people pay to go get scared now at the movie theaters, right?
Yeah.
They and folks don't have an attention span longer than a TikTok video, right?
That's
right.
True.
Am I telling the truth, Sandra? Am I preaching to you?
That's
right.
The truth.
So, but the Bible says, here he goes, that we are made overcomers by the words of our testimony. And when I heard your story, of course, you were on my cousin's show, and my cousin, who was back here, Niecy Jordan, her book there, Behind Closed Doors. When I heard your story on her show, I reached out to Niecy and said, get that lady on our show. And I want you to take your time. Remember what we talked about in the pre-show. But I want you to take your time and lay out for our audience truly what Minister Sandrian Nelson-Moon went through. Because they won't appreciate us on the other side till they understand what you went through. Sandrian, the floor is yours.
Well, let me start with this. You know, God is, I love him. He is so intricate in how he does things. I'm going to say that first. As a child, I didn't understand a lot of, you know, growing up, I love the Caribbean. We had so many things that happened. For me, I had a great childhood. I think this is the only thing that happened to me that made me wonder was this. The culture is something where I am actually hoping to change in the future, working at that right now. I'll give information on that later. But at 9 years old was the first time it shifted for me. I remember going to sleep, and I remember cold hands vividly, just shocked me out of my sleep. And then I guess I surprised the person, so they ran also out of the room. I remember just going into shock because I didn't, when you don't expect something, and as a child, you're confused at what just happened. I felt cold hands in places that it shouldn't be. So that's where it started. I remember I couldn't sleep that night. I couldn't go back to bed. And for years, I tried to be the last to sleep, first one awake. In moments where I thought, okay, fine, the person or persons won't come back, somehow, and I even say this in my book, somehow they would know when I would start trusting myself to go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would happen again. It happened a couple of times. As I got older, it stopped. But in my family, we knew back then, other than today, if you know the culture, there's certain conversations you cannot have in your home. Your grandparents don't want to.
In the Caribbean culture.
In the Caribbean, yeah. Your parent, there's no boyfriend, girlfriend conversation. There's no conversation that's inappropriate. They will tell you you're not an adult. Don't speak about those things.
Right.
So I was so fearful of speaking, I never did. But in the midst of that and not speaking, I piled everything I felt. And as I told you, I had a little book that I found and I wrote. That's where I started writing my feelings down, and I used to hide it in a hole or under the bed. And it kind of stopped as I got older. But most of my life, most of those days, I was very scared. I would become, in my mind, two people. One person in the day, if everybody, I seemed okay. But when I'm alone, I was scared out of my wits.
Right. Half
the time. I don't think my parents saw it. I don't think anyone saw it. It was just me, the thoughts, and the fear that I had. But like I said, as I got older, that subsided. I was going fine, high school, and I went off one day to the library, and I was talking to a guy at the time, and coming home from the library one night, and somehow I stopped in the midst of a place we call Halfway Tree.
Mm-hmm.
And stopped by this guy. He was selling some clothes, and a lot of people were out there selling. And I asked about this really unique top I saw. And he said to me, hey, you want a top? You got to come with me because I don't have any more in your size right here. So I walked off with this guy. Me and right now, as in my 30s, I'm like, what were you thinking?
Right.
But
right.
Then, back then I was like, no, it's okay, And I walked off with the guy, and I was abducted within a few minutes of walking with him. And he's like, oh, we got to get in this car to go, whatever. And I was like, why do I need to get in the car? He's like, no, get in the car, and they kind of pushed me in the car. And I got in the car, and I was between two people. And I realized, like, oh my God, here, are you going to come back home? This is where the fear really started. That feeling that I had at 9 started sitting in again.
Right.
I couldn't shake it. And I was told, hey, go up. I was put up some stairs, blindfolded. I know going up staircases. So I was walking up staircases. I remember being put in a room. I heard 2 people. Luckily for me, I guess, I don't know if that was God. I was raped only by one of those people. After being abducted and sitting there raping me for a while. This is how I lost my virginity at 16. There was no gentleness about it. There was no anything. I think for him, and this was a grown man. I know he was past his 30s. And I think I remember hearing him go to the door to talk to whoever was watching the door or whatever the case was. I was raped and told to take a shower. Of course, I'm breaking down in that shower crying. I was like, God, how do I get out of here? How do I get out of here? And he gets me out of there. I dry off and I sit down, and he proceeds to try to talk to me. And while he's proceeding to talk, he says something that for some reason I felt that was God because when he said it, I found the strength to just say, okay, here's a door. Go through this door. However, and whatever you need to do, go through the door. So he said to me, so my abductor says, I want you to be my girlfriend. And in my mind at 16, I was like, are you kidding me?
Right.
I didn't say it, I was just silent. Luckily for me, I didn't have a look on my face when he said it. And I said, okay. And then I said, oh, in my head, in that moment, it was like, okay, God, here's the door.
Right.
And I used that door. I convinced this man. Honestly, King, I don't remember what I said to him, but I convinced, and I remember sitting there about 20 minutes convincing him what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna say. It's okay what he did to me, lying my teeth off
Right.
just to get out of that room. There was a gun there. I was literally, I convinced him, and I know this was just God. And he said, okay, I'm going to let you go. And in that moment, I felt my heart sink. I don't know where I was because, of course, they blindfolded me back out the room. I came back out,
right,
wherever it was, and they dropped me somewhere in the middle of halfway tree. My clothes were filthy. I was a mess. I don't even think I had shoes on. And I remember getting on a bus. People were talking to me around me, but I was in a trance the whole time. I remember folk moving, all of that happening, but in my own bubble, what just happened? Because regardless of what happened to me at 9, I still kept me, it was just touching. You know what I'm saying?
right.
But I lost the one thing that night that I had left. And that's how I felt. So I'm walking, I get in this bus to go home. I knew what bus it was. But I said people were talking and I didn't hear them. And I just like something clicking, I heard a man say, Washington Boulevard. And that was my stop. And as if God said, wake up. And I got off and I walked barefooted, dirty, whatever I was looking like. I don't even remember. I just remember people trying to talk to me. Are you okay? People in the neighborhood. Because of course, back there, you got, everybody knows everybody.
Right.
Right. So people see me and I don't look good. I don't look okay. And I walk straight into my house.
Before you get in the house, let me just tell our audience, you are tuning in to Impacting Life 24/7 with your host, CL King. I'm joined tonight by Sandrian Nelson-Moon. She hails from Jamaica but currently lives in New York. And you can find this riveting story in her book. Go to restoredbook.info. And I've already seen people have shared the live tonight on Facebook, but we also would like for you guys to connect with her that listen to our podcast later. We understand that this podcast is downloaded in 46 states and over 30 countries around the world. And so her connection and her information will be in the show notes. But again, that's restoredbook.info. And this is someone who, you're right, Miss Principal Cassidy. This is someone who has tremendous courage because you got abducted, and you were facing certain death.
I was.
It's interesting that my wife and we watched the movie, the latest Rambo. We didn't know it was on Netflix. And so I'm kind of
I don't know that one.
Yeah,
I gotta go see that.
It's on Netflix now, and I'm kind of a Sylvester Stallone fan. And when I saw that, what the storyline was about his niece getting abducted. His niece got abducted, and there's nothing like being taken away from the place that's familiar to you.
Yeah.
And maybe reconciling in your mind that, hey, look, I may not make it back out of this alive. And so if you'd like to read this story and read more about it, I want you to go to restoredbook.info. That's with my guest, Sandrian Nelson-Moon. And so you get on the bus, you're back home, and you're getting ready to go in. Tell us about the response at home.
I had already missed curfew. I mean, crazy hours. I don't remember. I remember walking through halfway tree when I got abducted. It was either after 5 something or 6 something. It wasn't that dark yet. It was just getting dark when I was abducted. I got back there. It was wee hours in the morning, to the point where my grandmother called my dad because I never missed curfew. But it was, you know how it is back there. They got no patience for, you don't do what you're supposed to do, you in some trouble.
Right.
So she wasn't going to be the one to slap me or beat me, whatever it was. It would have been my daddy.
Right.
So she called him, oh, I missed my curfew, I'm not home, they don't know where I am. Back then we didn't have cell phones, you know. So but I remember walking down this street that's right before I returned to my my house. And like I said, there were people outside that I've known that see me grow up in the neighborhood. People again trying to talk to me. So I remember walking in. I don't know. I can't even tell you what I felt, because as much as you got the freedom, I knew I was about to face another thing when I walked in that house.
Right.
You know,
because you had been gone for at least a night, right?
I had been gone for a long time. And when I walked through the door, I think my cousin saw me initially and was joking, like, oh my God, you're in trouble. But when he looked at me, he got quiet. And as I walked past everybody, all my cousins still go speak to my grandmother. She was coming, I think, from the back of the house. She came from the kitchen into the living room, and she was so angry. She looked at me and she said something that broke my heart. You know, she said, go back wherever you're coming from. And I know it was out of anger. I know it was out of where have you been? But I kept those words for years. I couldn't forget them. They repeated in my head for years. And I looked at her and I didn't know what to say, you know?
Right.
Because I couldn't believe she said it, because I know where I'm coming from. You see what I mean?
Right.
And when she said it, it just cut. I got quiet and she's fussing at me about being late. And I remember just falling to my knees on the ground, and I screamed, I was raped. And when I screamed it, everybody got quiet. But I think for my grandmother, she didn't even know what to say to me. She just looked at me. She said, your father is on the way. And I remember laying on that floor, just crying my eyes out, as if, and I remember no one hugged me, because like I said, the culture is people don't even know how to behave when these things happen. They don't know how to react to you. They don't, it's like, nah, this is, you know, nobody understood.
Wait, hold on a second, Sandrian. I got Sandrian Nelson-Moon on our podcast. You can find her at restoredbook.info. But you just said something that's really interesting, because I think maybe even today, still in the culture, people don't know how to handle folks that have gone through trauma.
No.
And so you came home. They're more worried about the punitive issues. Where have you been and all that, and couldn't even reconcile the fact that you had been abducted and that you had been raped.
But interestingly enough, I never said I was abducted. I just screamed that I was raped.
Okay, go ahead.
You know what I mean? I just screamed to her I was raped, because I thought I would have gotten a response, but I got nothing.
Right. So,
all I got was your father's on the way.
So what happened next?
And I wanted so badly, man. I don't think no one understood this. And I wanted so badly for somebody to hold me in that moment when I said that, but no one did. And I remember just falling. Like I said, I was on that floor on my knees, and I finished it and flopped myself to the ground. And as if I hugged the ground the whole time until my father walked through that door, and he walked in that door angry. Where have you been? You know, but when he saw me, something clicked in my dad. It was like, wait a second, something's wrong here.
Right.
You know, he didn't hug me either, because I guess, of course, for him, it may have been shock. And he said to me, let's go. And we went straight to the police office, the police station. And of course, they put me through a rape kit. They put me through the whole nine. They give you a pill so you don't get pregnant. They put you through the whole talking about it situation, repeating the story, you know. But again, it's still back to the culture no one knows what to do in this situation. Because I think for my dad at the time, he thought, hey, maybe if you don't talk about it, the pain will go away.
You know, that's interesting. That's interesting that you say that, because what I see from the generational hurts that have gone down and over the years. Basically, how people have dealt with that and how families have dealt with that is just not to discuss it.
Yeah.
And then everybody wonders why this one kid or two kids or four kids, whatever the case may be, are having these issues because, we never truly dealt with the hurts that we carried around like millstones in our lives. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, those of you listening to Impact Life 24/7, those of you tuned in to our live podcast, this is a special broadcast with our guest, Sandrian Nelson-Moon, originally from Jamaica, and she currently lives in New York. You can find her amazing, riveting story at restoredbook.info. Of course, you can find her on social media, all social media outlets that you see tagged in the Facebook Live. But here's what I wish we had 10 hours to discuss the story, Sandra. But because we could probably do it in 10. But here's where we are. We hear that you meet up with your dad. We understand that the police intervene, and there's various levels of acceptance and such where people are in disbelief. They're in shock. And so help us, just give us like a 2-minute closure on how this particular dispensation got closed.
Which one? What do you
Where
mean?
you're at the police station with your dad and you give your report, and how do we get at least back to moving somewhat back to normal?
Trying to move forward.
Yeah.
I think for me, I remember being in the station, we talked, they did the rape kit. And I think they said to me, this has happened before. Asking me, can I remember faces? And I was trying to remember, try to give them descriptions and everything. But I just felt to me, it didn't feel like much was done anyway. Even in the midst, it's like they took the report just to take a report.
Right.
Let's say that. The report was taken because it's something they needed to do. Other than that, nothing else, because you never heard from them again. You never heard anything about the story. You never heard anything about the rapist, or they never called to ask me anything. There was never a follow-up with that. But I think for my family, my dad said to me, I had school. That was a Saturday night. I had school that Monday morning. And he asked me not to talk about it at school.
Really?
And I don't think at the moment for him, I thought he was protecting me, but I don't think he realized I was already walking around with baggage years earlier than that.
Right.
So asking me to pile more on wasn't something I could do. So I remember going home and I went to the kitchen. I was still just fuming from what my grandmother said. I couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't get the fact of the reaction out of my head. I felt like I didn't mean anything to anybody because I was told to be quiet about it. In a nutshell, I was told not to talk anymore, keep it to myself. There was not much after that, honestly. So I went home distraught. I went home angry. I went home just hurt.
Right.
And I felt like, well, what is the point of me being here?
Yeah, that's right.
Why do I need to stay with y'all? Maybe when I'm dead, it matters more. So I remember going and grabbing a knife, and I went to the bathroom and I tried to shower. And I remember sitting in there scrubbing myself as if I was taking filth off, but I couldn't. I remember crying my eyes out in that shower, and I remember holding that knife to my chest, and I tried to push it. And I couldn't find the energy to. It was God in some way saying, what are you doing? No.
Right.
I'm not allowing you to do this. Over the years, I attempted suicide about 5 times between 16 and into my 20s. And I didn't realize the damage that came with that thing until I hit my, I hit my 20s. I moved out of the Caribbean. My mom migrated me from there. And when I got here, I was still feeling and dealing with other people
Mm-hmm.
coming up to me, trying to make passes at me that are around the family. So more trauma on top of that.
So let me ask you this again, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who are tuning in to Impact Life 24/7 live and or on our podcast, our international podcast, we have joining us in our virtual studios Miss Sandrian Nelson-Moon. I've said her name right every time that I've said it tonight. Really impressed with myself there, Greg. And you can find her at you can get her book at restoredbook.info. So one of the things that we like to do at Impact Life 24/7 is we like to show you kind of the backstory, but then we like to show you why and how people are impacting lives through their impact. And so you've gone through a lot. You know, this affected your first marriage. We talked about that offline. But
Yes,
tell us so we don't get away bit by the clock. Tell us what was the nexus? What was the turning point for you to start saying, "Hey, look, I'm going to take all of this trauma and use it to help other people"?
Okay, so going into my first marriage, that was another situation in itself. I realized, it took a lot for me to even try that because, like I said, into my 20s, I relived my rape for years.
Right.
No matter who I dated, no matter how I tried, I relived it for a long time. And I think one of the turning points within my 20s was me doing something with someone and going home and attempting suicide again. And in my marriage, I tried it also when I realized that infidelity was coming up in it and I couldn't trust him anymore. And I thought in my head, well, okay, I'm married to someone. Maybe his loving me is going to make me feel better. A lot of us think that we find someone, they're going to fix it. It doesn't work.
Right.
And I realized when I got to the place where I was still carrying those feelings,
Right.
I said, okay, God, time to fix this. So I got out of that, took years to myself, moved, and went into therapy, did a whole lot of things between me, God, and working it out. And as I worked through it, I remember sitting back and I'm like, God, you literally walked me through this thing.
Right.
And I remember, and I say this to people because I realized as I speak about my trauma, as I spoke about it, it took me years to get to the place to say I was raped and it wasn't my fault.
Ooh.
That alone took years to say. When I got to the place where I could say that, then I realized in increments, I could then start speaking about my story. And as I spoke about my story, I realized there were so many other women with the same story I had.
Yeah.
And then I realized, wait a minute, but when you're speaking, if people are coming to you to have a conversation, they want to be able to have a listening ear. You're actually opening up and you're helping them. So I said, okay, God, I'm realizing what my purpose is in the midst of this. How do I help these women? So I've been volunteering and doing all kinds of work for years now. And I decided to go and work on being a life coach. I'm in ministry. Like I said, I'm actually getting ready to work with the UN. So I've been doing a lot of work all over the place.
Yeah.
And transitioning whatever it is I learned, how I transitioned out of it, the strategies I used. And I hope to, pour that into other women and other people who've been through these situations, simply to let them understand there is a way out of it. I think, and the culture that we feel therapy isn't something that's important. I need, my biggest thing was shining a light on. It is very important.
Yes.
Most of us will not tell our family and our friends what we really feel. It's easier to speak with someone who actually understands to give you the tools to deal with these things. So that is something I remember in my 20s when that hit me, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know how it is when you finally lift it off of you. You'll realize there's so much room left in there for you to pack the things that are, a blessing when you look at your life, I think for me, CL, I got to a place where I said, wait a second. I've seen death's door a couple times.
Right.
Apart from my suicide. Okay? I've seen it a couple times. And somehow God has allowed me to still stand here.
Yes.
Now, what is the purpose of him allowing my stance? It was never for me to just stand. It was for me to help somebody else to stand with me. So now when I recognized that, it was the, oh my God, I love you moment.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and in that moment, I was like, wait a minute. My husband used to say, you always picking up strays somewhere. My husband says that sometimes.
Yeah,
because he's like,
yeah.
you're on the road and people just come up to you.
Right.
For some reason, they want to talk. Do you realize what you are? And I was like, no, because I'm always willing to help.
Right.
That's how I, began. And I kind of transitioned from, okay, I've done this. I just felt like, listen, for the people who've gone through things, there's going to be a moment when you get to a place of peace.
Right.
We know the Bible tells you peace is everything.
Right.
That place where you have laid all of it at his feet, laid it down, worked it out, done the work, and then you can breathe. And when you can breathe,
yeah,
you'll be able to see clearer. Your steps will get even bigger. And that's how my transition was. It was okay in steps, in strides, and strategies.
Well, before you go on, I want to tell everybody who's tuning in, we have in our virtual studios, the lady that you're seeing with me tonight is Miss Sandrian Nelson-Moon. She hails, she originally, her land of nativity is Jamaica, and she currently lives in New York. You can go to her website, restoredbook.info. One of the things that I was really, I was mesmerized by was this, because on every show, ladies and gentlemen, we've done almost 300 shows on Impact Life 24/7. We always get information and do a pre-interview with people who come on our show. Okay, you can't just say, I'm the local dog catcher and I want to come on this show. It just doesn't work. We can't accept everybody. But one thing that I did see was, here's one thing that Sandrian said. She said, I am an elected county committee member, District 4331 Assembly. She said, I have represented and met with city officials on many issues within the community. I travel and speak all over the country, speaking into lives on the topic of trauma specifically. She said, I have written a book about my personal experiences and use it as a roadmap along with proper trauma-informed care and counseling practices. I have worked and still do work with numerous ministerial nonprofit associations and focus on feeding, speaking, counseling, and helping victims find aid during their trauma and beyond. I am presently a minister, soon to be international chaplain, and UN ambassador to the U.S. and Jamaica. Induction happens this August this year. She says, I am presently in talks with other ambassadors and elected officials to find ways to open a facility or program to help victims on a more hands-on basis. I work with and I'm a member of organizations such as Lazarus Ministries, Caribbean Girls Mission, Roof Sisters Fellowship International, and now my own ministry, Inspire Life Ministries. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that I am thrilled to death to hear that. You know why? You know why I am? Because Sandrian,
yeah,
after all that you've been through,
yeah,
you had every excuse to quit.
Woo. Oh.
And you didn't, sister. In fact, you had every excuse to make this all about you.
Yeah.
And now here you are, an ambassador at the UN, traveling all over the world, having multiple ministries, and telling people, man, it don't matter what the adversity is, you still can make it. Sandrian, that is the message that Impacting Life 24/7 propels, and we're so thankful that you're speaking those words into other people's lives.
And guess what? I'm preparing for law school.
I forgot you told me that. She's going to be a counselor, ladies and gentlemen. So all the things, all the elements that we look at, like, okay, this person had a white picket fence. They had, 2 loving parents. They never went through any trauma. And this is why she's got these results. No. Sandrian went through hell. It went to the bowels of hell. And she's like, hey, man, I'm showing you that if I can do it, anyone can do it. Now, let me ask you this, Sandrian. I didn't prepare you for this question. Okay, you ready? When some people say, what are you looking at over there? Because, you're looking at me straight ahead, but I have this huge 95,000-inch screen over here that I see you.
95,000 inch?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Don't let my husband hear you say that.
It's crazy, man. It's huge. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
In relation to your dad.
Yeah.
Did you see y'all relationship ever get better over the years?
Oh, it's amazing now.
Really?
I mean, let me tell you, my dad, honestly, I love my dad. My dad's a role model to me. I've seen him deal with things with his family for years, and very educated. He's a doctor of education. I think for him, the reaction, and what's crazy, I've never really been mad at my dad about it, or my mom. I've seen both of them try to make things better. Right. As I grew up, my mom left me with my grandmother because she thought that was the best thing, while she tried to, get here so she can help me migrate to this country. My dad worked very hard to be there. He is the tool behind my nerdisms. Let me say that. He was the example there. He's done a lot of work in the community also. I think he's been looking into some work in the community there in Jamaica in politics. I think my relationship with my dad has always been pretty cool. There are moments, of course, we have Caribbean parents and they do certain things, they react certain ways. That would never change, so that part, it is what it is. But as far as talking to me, he knew I was writing this book because we talked about it. And I remember him saying something that was vivid. He said to me, I heard you cry in my spirit.
Oh, wow.
I said, you said what? And this is maybe a year ago. He revealed it. And I said, Dad, what are you talking about? Because I never thought I would be able to have this conversation about what happened to me with my parents, right. Because like I said, back then they felt they were sick, I guess covering me right. by saying, maybe it's too hard for you to deal with, kind of not deal with it, but not realizing, because again, I see it's a trend. They were never taught how to deal with things, right? So they don't even know how to.
Well, let me interject, because she just brought up a very good point, ladies and gentlemen. Again, for those of you tuning in to Impacting Life 24/7, I'm joined in our virtual studios by Sandrian Nelson-Moon from Jamaica. Now she's living in New York. You can get her book at restoredbook.info. You just said something interesting, okay? Yeah. And how many kids you got, Sandrian?
I birthed 2 and I have 2 extras.
Okay, so
I also have 2. Yeah.
You ain't caught me yet, Sandrian. I got 7.
Woo!
But we both got the same thing going on. Here's what I want to tell you, that when trauma happens to our kids, or when things happen to our children, we as parents have a tendency to try to do everything in our power to give them the world that is not. Mm-hmm. They've gone through hell, they've gone through trauma, she's been raped, she's been victimized, etc. And we as parents try to do everything to, maybe if we just don't talk about it, perhaps it will just subside. It will just go away. And I'm learning this. Okay. I'll be very transparent with you. Mike, of course, is our co-host. Greg is our VP, and all of our other folks, affiliates, sponsors watching the show tonight. You're right, Greg. Sometimes parents just don't know. We just don't know what to do. Yeah. And you I'm so glad, this is why I asked you about you guys' relationship now.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that y'all relationship has evolved and grown through the pain.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? My mom told me about her trauma. She experienced some things herself. My dad experienced some things himself. So like I said, it's the same thing that's charity, it's the same generational situation,
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, it's always to try to help people understand, as a woman of God, the word forgiveness is heavy.
Yeah.
Because it was a big thing for me. If I couldn't forgive even my abductors, if I couldn't forgive anybody in the process of this, I wouldn't have been birthed to this place. This wouldn't have been birthed to this place.
Right.
I can't go on to give anybody anything if I'm carrying too much. If I'm carrying baggage, if I'm angry and dealing with it. No, if you're not healed and ready to get healed properly, let it go and move past it. Give it to God, let rid of it and breathe. You're gonna be stuck.
She's selling a very she's speaking a truism, ladies and gentlemen, because for years, even with my grandmother, I was extremely bitter against her, Sandra.
Mm-hmm.
I was bitter. I just was. I felt like she just threw me to the wolves.
I felt that with mine too. Yeah.
And the truth is that forgiveness is not truly about liberating them. Forgiveness is about liberating us.
There you go.
And sometimes we want to hang on to those things because we feel justified in our pain.
There you go.
I'm joined.
And it never is okay.
That's right. I'm joined in our virtual studios by Sandrian Nelson-Moon from Jamaica, but she now lives in New York. What a phenomenal story. She was, if you look over my shoulder here, there's my cousin's book, Behind Closed Doors, Niecy Jordan, and I'm giving her some shameless plugs. I'm giving you all kind of plugs because I ain't charge you a dime for them either. When I heard Sandrian's story on Niecy's show, Lunchtime Conversations, I said, Niecy, get me connected with her. And because of our crazy schedules, when we had her scheduled, it didn't work out. And I said, no, this is too important. And we prayed in our pre-show, didn't we? Didn't we, Sandrian? We prayed in our pre-show.
We will play with prayer.
Because you know what? We want people to understand that no matter what you've been through, Sandrian is a testament. She's a testimony that she about to be a lawyer. I'm about to get out of every speeding ticket there ever was because I'm going to call my girl Sandrian like, yo, y'all don't know Sandrian down up there in New York. and so now let me ask you this. This is a deep question, Sandrian. You ready?
Okay.
How did all of your experiences affect you as a parent?
Ooh, brother.
Ooh. We only got 9 minutes, so give it to me.
Listen, what's crazy is my daughter would say, if she would hear you now, she would say, "Mommy, you're overprotective." Mommy, you're overprotective. I don't think so. I do give a little room to breathe. I just, we go through what we call the checks and balances before you make a step over there.
Right.
That's basically what it is. And but it's not to where it's crazy.
Right.
With her friends, okay, who are their parents? Because in all honesty, man, we can all be real here. We don't know half of who we dealing with today.
Yeah, you're right.
You got people that you call your friends and you don't know what they're doing behind closed doors.
That's the truth.
So you just got to make sure you take precautions with your kids, precautions with even yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got trafficking.
Yeah.
We got boys as well as girls being raped. We got so many things happening in this world. And it's not just, we feel like nowhere is safe anymore. So when you do things, you just take precautions.
Yeah.
As far as that kind of stuff though, rape, trauma, I am very open with my daughter. Okay. I tell her, be open with me. I could care who I don't care who less it is. It could be your cousin, your uncle, your daddy. I don't care who it is.
Right.
If at any moment you feel uncomfortable, bring it to me.
Yeah.
Because see, I know what it felt like at her age.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, my child will not feel that.
See, and what you're talking
You know.
about is so good because, again, those of you who are tuning in, you missed it. You missed the grand slam of the week. We're joined in our virtual studios with Sandrian Nelson-Moon on Impact Life 24/7. She is a sexual trafficking abducted survivor. She went through hell, ladies and gentlemen, and she's written a book. You can find her book at restoredbook.info, and she's on all the types of social media platforms that we all know. But one thing that has stood out to me is that this woman's resilience is not just put on. You know, you can find some people that go through something and then they're going to make it their life's mission to show that they overcame it, right? They're going to show you through every moment that I'm overcoming. Yeah. But no, I got you feel me, right, Sandrian? But I get the feeling from her ministry that she's just living the life that God has given her. And when you talk about somebody that gets abducted in Jamaica, in the Caribbeans, you talk about the culture that the family structure was not accepting, even that she was the victim. You talk about all the pain and agony of relationships and trying to rebuild them that she went through. And here she is today. She's an ambassador at the UN. She has written a book. She is almost finished with law school. She is a elected committee member in District 4331 Assembly. She's a mom. She's a wife. And she's a woman of God. And I told her that I said, listen, Sandrian, we're going to have you back on because there are so many people who sometimes hear these stories and they say, I tell people sometimes, Sandrian, I tell people about how I was on the streets of Cleveland, homeless for 6 months at 11 years old.
Wow.
And I look out in the audience sometimes and they're just like this. They're like this.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I tell them about my dad trying to kill me drowning me in the tub, and they're just like, okay, whatever.
What?
I
gotta get a copy of your book when you done, bro.
I don't want us to ever become so TikTok sensationalized that we forget.
Yeah, that's a big deal for me too. Yeah.
That people like you, Sandrian, are out here, boots on the ground, who bear the scars of trauma. Now, I got 4 minutes left. Tell us about your coaching programs and what you do to help people get out of their circumstances.
Well, I coaching right now is I simply talk people through. You know, a lot of times people just want to know there's someone that's willing to listen. There's someone who understands whatever they've dealt with and dealing with. I'm actually getting ready to do some workshops and some conferences coming up dealing with abduction and these kinds of situations. The program is there. I'm helping other women also to deal with their books, write their own story, to not be afraid of it, because I believe in whatever this is. These books are a part of your healing a lot of times. Right. And I think a lot of us don't see that. I'm just a testament to God, honestly. I don't give any praise to anything else. And I try not to take any credit. It's what he's given me. And I love this work. I love being able to help someone else get to a place of just living, actually enjoying your life. A lot of people are living. They're alive, but they're not living. Let me say that.
That's right. And the title of her book is called Restored, A Journey from Abuse to Deliverance. And you guys can look back here in my mass array of books. And that book is going to be on this shelf here shortly. We also want to do one other thing publicly. We want to invite you to our Leadership Institute. Greg, send her an invite to our Leadership Institute because the work that you're doing on so many different fronts is just so vital, and I believe your voice needs to be magnified. And anything that we can,
I'm trying my best to magnify.
Well, there's no doubt, sister. But anything
I'm trying. Yes.
Anything that we can do to help. That's what we're about here at Impact Life 24/7. So, Greg, when you see an invite from Greg Smith to the CL King Leadership Institute, don't think it's spam, okay, sister? We legit up in this joint. You know what I'm saying? And again, we've had a very, very amazing conversation with our friend and new sister. She is truly taking the world not just by storm, but she's helping the world cope through the things that they've gone through. And I am so blessed that I'm so blessed that our schedules got together where we could actually be together. And so with just a minute left and so much more to say, I want you to take the next minute. And I want you to speak to those people maybe out there, Sandrian, who has gone through trauma and feel like they're in the same place that you were, ready to just end life, ready to plunge that knife into their chest. Yeah. They feel like there's no hope. They've given up on everything. Nobody's surrounding them. So, Sandrian, I'm going to give you the floor. Speak a word of encouragement to them in the name of the Lord.
Bless God. You know, I want to say to anyone that's dealing with these feelings, you know, the fact that you're breathing, God hasn't given up on you yet. You know, that alone speaks volumes to the fact of your ability to still come through whatever it is that you got to come through. There is always a purpose for the pain. You see, if we can figure out the purpose, we can learn to deal with the pain. See, trauma isn't something you get over. It's something you learn to deal with. You learn to manage, you strategize, but there is still hope in that, your ability to live, not just exist. Right. You know, there is still a lot of space there. And I pray for anyone else who needs to get resources. We have resources. You can reach out to me or CL. There's a lot of resources available to you. We can guide you and put you in the right direction, but do not give in to whatever the devil is pouring for you to do. There is still a whole lot of life left within you. There is still somebody who's waiting for your life to line up with theirs. So I'm going to pour that into you today. Let God do with you what he needs to do with you. Accept the call. He's going to handle it, and he's going to help you walk through it. There is always hope in the midst of it.
Amen. I've said that many times. I said it on our last show that as long as there is breath and long as there is life, there is hope. So be sure to accept Sandrian. Be sure to accept Greg Smith's friend request because then we will invite you to our Leadership Institute, and we're going to schedule you maybe to do some sessions with our leaders in the Leadership Institute that we have all across the country there. And Sandrian Nelson-Moon from Jamaica. I got to get some Jamaican food like oxtail, man.
It's been years since I've been back there.
Oh, is that right? So she's like, don't be talking to me about no Jamaican. I'm New York, cuz.
Yeah, it's been a minute. My friend passed away and I haven't gone,
So her book, Restored, A Journey from Abuse to Deliverance. You can find her book at restoredbook.info. And she is all over social media. I just wish that you would connect with her, ladies and gentlemen, because when you've gone through the things that she's gone through, this is why we say we are a cathedral. We are a cathedral of resources. I wanted to read one last comment before I left. I saw something from Mike Black. He said, "What a blessing you really are." Talking about you, Sandra. He says, "An angel among us. God is using you in a mighty way. He will continue to use you in a mighty way. Very thankful to hear your story tonight." You see?
Oh, God bless you, Mike.
We have someone tuning in from India.
Wow.
He's saying he's praying for you and your situation. And so, again, what did I tell you, Sandria? From all corners of the from all the corners of the world. And so, thank you so much for being with us. We'll schedule you another time to come.
Me, sir.
We'll have you back in the fall. Go tell Nisi what I told you to tell her, that you can't get treated no better than on Impacting Life, baby. So she got to step up her game. I know
she's gonna laugh.
I know she is. I tagged her in the show. We love you. We appreciate you, and thank you for your ministry to ladies and folks all around the world. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me.
Have a great night.
You too, hon. Bye-bye.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it here at Impacting Life 24/7. Wow, what a show, man. I'm always challenged when I deal with people who have similar stories as me, and then I listen to their story, and I'm like, man, my story sounds like I ain't got nothing going on, right? But this is why it's called the body of Christ. See, we are fitly framed together. She's not trying to be me. I'm not trying to be her. I'm not trying to be you. Don't you dare try to be me. But we all have traveled down the dusty roads of our own experiences. And when we work together, I told someone this today, and I'll explain it to them a little bit later on because they asked me to explain. When we're constantly using language like they and them, we defy the whole purpose of God's will. Even at the Tower of Babel, you know what they said? They said, let us make us a name. It was about us. Now, they were wrong because they were focusing on themselves instead of God's plan. But, man, it can't just be about them over there or y'all on the corner. It's got to be about us. And so, God bless you. Charles Christina. He's saying good morning because he's over there in India. So connect with our guest tonight. It's very, very simple. Go to restoredbook.info. She's got a book called Restored, A Journey from Abuse to Deliverance. Her name is Sandrian Nelson-Moon. That concludes our show for tonight, Impacting Life 24/7. We will be back on our normal 7 o'clock schedule at the next appointed time. Please pray for Greg, Mike, and I, and the rest of our staff as we continue to. This is Impacting Life 24/7 LLC now. It's not just Impacting Life. It's not just a hobby, but we're doing this as a company. We wanted to bring legitimacy to what we're doing. Just wanted to let you know I didn't want these guys to continue to do everything they do for free. I didn't want to be driving all over town, all over country, all over the states for chicken dinners. And so this is a legit business, y'all. Obviously, our mission supersedes any amount of money we could ever get. But if you'd like to help us in our mission and you want to become a sponsor at a very, very simple and easy to absorb rate, just go to clkingspeaker.com. Scroll down to the bottom. We got 3 levels of sponsorship. We'd love to have you because I'm getting a new sound. We are getting a new soundboard here should be arriving in the next day or so. And that soundboard was a major upgrade. And why do you need that? Because we're going to introduce phone calls to our show and all the things that we want to do. It takes money. It's just not free. And I want everyone who comes on Impacting Life 24/7 to feel like they got the royal treatment. I want them to feel like this was an investment of their time and we valued their time. So please go back and check out our friend who was with us tonight. Her name is Sandrian Nelson-Moon. Her book title is called Restored, A Journey from Abuse to Deliverance. And you can find it at restoredbook.info. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again next time on Impacting Life 24/7 with your host, CL King. God bless you.